dead of night, a terrifying figure lurked in the peaceful suburbs of California, where ordinary families slept without a worry, unaware of the nightmare waiting to unfold. This man was no ordinary criminal. He was the Golden State Killer, a predator who eluded the police for decades, leaving behind a trail of horror. It was the 1970s. California was a place of dreams, but for some, it was about to turn into a relentless nightmare. A man started breaking into homes, slipping past security and prying eyes like a phantom. He wasn't after money or valuables. What he wanted was control, pain, and fear. This man, soon to be known as the Golden State Killer, would sneak in undetected, watching his victims as they slept. And when he was ready, he'd strike, leaving no trace but terror. Joseph James DeAngelo was a respected figure, a police officer trained in the very techniques meant to stop men like him. Born in 1945, DeAngelo served in the Navy, gaining skills that would later make him one of the most elusive predators. As a cop, he knew how to avoid leaving clues, how to cover his tracks, and how to instill fear. He blended in perfectly, a trusted officer by day, a remorseless killer by night. But why would a man who dedicated his life to law and order transform into one of the most feared killers in California? That was the question haunting everyone. Over a decade, the Golden State Killer left more than 50 women and 13 innocent lives shattered. His victims weren't just numbers. They were people with dreams, families, and futures. Each attack was calculated and cold, yet utterly merciless. 1. Claude Snelling, September 11, 1975. Method: Claude Snelling, a professor, tried to rescue his daughter from being kidnapped by DeAngelo when he heard a disturbance outside his home. Murder: DeAngelo shot Snelling, who died on the spot. This is believed to be DeAngelo's first murder. 2. Brian Maggiore and Katie Maggiore, February 2, 1978. Method: This couple was out walking their dog in Rancho Cordova when DeAngelo began following them. Murder: Sensing danger, Brian and Katie started to run, but DeAngelo chased them down and shot both of them. Third Doctor, Robert Offerman and Deborah Manning, December 30th, 1979. Method: DeAngelo broke into the home of this couple in Goleta late at night. Murder: He attempted to bind both, but when Offerman resisted, DeAngelo shot them. Both were killed by gunfire. 4. Charlene Smith and Lyman Smith, March 13, 1980. Method: This couple was at their home in Ventura when DeAngelo broke in. Murder: He tied them up and assaulted them, then strangled both to death. 5. Keith Harrington and Patrice Harrington, August 19, 1980. Method: The couple was at home in Dana Point when DeAngelo attacked them at night. Murder: Both were bludgeoned and strangled, leaving few forensic clues behind, making it difficult for investigators to trace him. 6. Manuela Huitun, February 6, 1981. Method: Huitun was alone in her home when DeAngelo attacked her. Murder: He brutally assaulted her, then strangled her. DeAngelo was careful to cover his tracks, making it hard for police to gather forensic evidence. 7. Sherry Domingo and Gregory Sanchez, July 27, 1981. Method: The couple was at home in Goleta when DeAngelo entered at night. Murder: Sanchez may have tried to fight back, but DeAngelo shot him and then strangled Domingo to death. Janelle Cruz, May 4, 1986. Method: Cruz was alone at her home when DeAngelo broke in. Murder: She was severely beaten and then strangled. This is believed to be his last known murder. Common techniques used: Silent entry. DeAngelo was skilled at breaking into homes without making noise and would often lurk before attacking. Binding and torturing. He bound his victims, inflicting both psychological and physical torture. Hiding evidence. He was meticulous about not leaving fingerprints or DNA, making it hard for authorities to trace him. The Golden State Killer's survivors include many women, though not all of them have chosen to publicly share their names due to the traumatic nature of the crimes. However, a few survivors have courageously come forward to speak about their experiences. Here are some of the women who have shared their names. 1. Jane Carson Sandler, attacked in 1976 in her Citrus Heights home while her 3-year-old son was present. She has shared her story widely to support other survivors. 2. Margaret Wardlow, the youngest known survivor, attacked at age 13. She has spoken about the impact of the attack and has been active in the search for justice. 3. Chris Pedretti, attacked at age 15. She's been open about her experiences and participated in advocacy and support for other survivors. 4. Gay Hardwick. She and her husband Bob were attacked in their Stockton home in 1978. Gay has since become an advocate, speaking openly about the trauma they endured. 5. Jennifer Carroll. Although not a direct survivor of sexual assault, she is the daughter of Lyman Smith, who was murdered alongside his wife Charlene by the Golden State Killer. Jennifer has been vocal about her family's story. These individuals are part of a larger group of survivors and family members who bravely shared their stories during D'Angelo's 2020 sentencing, helping to shed light on the extent of his crimes and the profound impact on their lives. The brutality of the crime stunned investigators. Then there was the case of Lyman and Charlene Smith, a well-loved couple, brutally attacked and killed. Bound and silenced, their home became a crime scene that left detectives horrified by the depravity of the killer's actions. With each attack, the Golden State Killer grew bolder, but he also became more terrifying, a shadow haunting the lives of countless families, spreading a fear that would last a lifetime. The police were desperate to catch him, but he was always one step ahead. Leads went cold, clues turned up empty, and the killer seemed to vanish after each attack. The authorities were chasing a ghost, but there was one man who refused to give up. Detective Paul Holes. Unlike others, Holes believed the answer was hidden somewhere in the killer's own DNA, a faint trace of identity waiting to be uncovered. Years passed, but Holes remained relentless, and soon science would become his weapon. By the 2000s, DNA technology had advanced, but for Detective Holes, the real breakthrough came through genealogy. With millions of people now using DNA services to trace family histories, the police began comparing crime scene DNA with public databases. Piece by piece, they built a family tree, a tree that pointed to a man who was now in his 70s, Joseph James D'Angelo. In April 2018, police quietly approached the Sacramento home of the 72-year-old former cop. They gathered DNA samples from his trash, and it was a perfect match. The Golden State Killer had finally been unmasked. After decades of evading justice, D'Angelo was arrested. The man who once wore a police badge had hidden a monstrous side, even as he lived a quiet suburban life. In court, D'Angelo sat, finally facing the families he had destroyed. He offered no remorse, but the truth was out, and the families finally had answers. After countless lives were shattered, justice was served. Sentenced to life in prison, he will never see freedom again. The Golden State Killer, once a ghost, was now caged, silenced, forever. The Golden State Killer's story is a reminder of the darkness that can hide behind ordinary lives. But it's also a story of resilience, of families who waited for justice and a detective who refused to give up. In the end, no matter how clever a criminal may be, justice will always find its way.